I mean, whatever. We're live, guys. We're doing this, and we've mastered going live now. That's
Oh
it.
yeah, it's like,
We know how to do it
and by
now.
mastered, we mean disastered.
We masturbated going live, guys. All right, so Chris is joining us, guys, and the dead weight Amit is not going to come on this
This
stream.
loser talking about work.
Yeah, he has things to do apparently that are more important than finance junkies. But that's what it is. All right, so you want to get straight to the comments? Oh shit, Mad
Yeah.
Money's here. I see Mad Money. I thought he
Oh
hated the
man.
show.
Well, he probably
Glenn
wants to see
Lambo.
what we're gonna say about Palantir next, right?
Right. Don't buy it. Matt, stay away.
No, I actually listen from that link that Chris sent or whatever, or that Amit sent. I've got links. I actually, if you guys want to listen to some stuff, I've got some links that we can discuss about
Well,
what
it's
this
our
company
podcast. So we
really.
can shit all
All
over
right,
Palantir all we
the
want.
thing
Man.
is, I don't even want to get into that. It's not even about shitting on the company. What I wish is that all these Palantir bulls just admitted what the company really is. Just say straight out, look, the company's got bad intentions. They're not squeaky clean. But I still think they'd be a 4 or 5x. I still think that the institutions are going to pile into them. I still think they're going to do well over 10 years. It's this idea that you can't be bullish on Palantir unless you believe that they're on some mission to save the world. They're not saving anyone.
Well,
And I got
they're
articles
saving
going
Ukraine.
back to 2017.
They're saving Ukraine, buddy.
Huh?
They're saving the Ukraine. I keep hearing all the things. Karp is meeting with the guy from Ukraine, whatever his name, Zelensky.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
I mean, it's like, when did we as investors or like, futurists in some sense get excited about that?
What
Like,
about
that doesn't
meeting
make me
with
excited.
Zelensky?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's terrible what's happening there, but that doesn't get me excited. Like Tesla coming out with like the semis, the Roadster, the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
That's exciting, right? As a futurist, thinking about
Yeah.
the future, even ENVX, which makes little batteries, at least I can get excited about the technology and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know why people get so excited about.
Do you notice
talking.
too? Do you notice too how like the same folks that get excited about things like a CARP meeting with Zelensky don't seem to understand the implications of something like Tesla releasing the semi? It's like I feel like it's just difference in people. I feel like they're more excited about philosophical things or feeling good about their investment. They actually just drink that Palantir Kool-Aid, man.
Well, do you think it's because they invested their money? Is it because they spent? Look, some people spend the 20 grand, 30 grand. Now they're deep in it. They've lost 70% of their portfolio in terms of Palantir, not everything, of course. And then you just want that thing to work. We keep going back to that, the sunk cost fallacy. Like you want that thing to work. And maybe it will, but it doesn't mean that there aren't better opportunities right now in front of you. Like, don't ignore those opportunities.
Yes. And I think especially in a market like this, that can't be understated. It's like, if you are down, look, even if you're not down, if you're just looking at investments neutrally, is Palantir really going to be the best performer out of all the other companies that have been torn down and out of all the other industries that are on the upturn? I don't personally think so. So I can't find an actual argument to say I'm going to, devote 5 or 10% of my portfolio into this company.
So I think people think we don't know what they do. Cameron Vincent, Vitaly, explains to me what Palantir does. I know what they do. They take our money and then they use it to pay CARP.
How do I share my screen? Hold on. How do I share my screen?
I think you gotta click present, click share.
Right. No, but there's like a whole bunch of. Hold on. What is this?
Kathy Wood is the one that created this mess, by the way. She got everybody
she
so
really
hyped up onto Palantir. And even I bought it because of her, first of all. I went in at $25 thinking this is going to $1 billion bucks. Or $1 trillion. I'm sorry. It is going to $1 billion bucks.
I'll be right back. It has to quit and reopen. So I'll be right back. So I can share my screen.
He's out. It's only me, guys. Hold on a sec. Let me see some comments. All right. What are we looking at here? What am I going to answer here? Do you call the cops on the Ford driver? I'm not sure what that means. Oh, the Ford driver. Oh, yes. Somebody hit my Tesla, and I have a video. Maybe I'll share it on the stream. But somebody in a diner in Jersey City backed up into my car. They left a little bit of a scratch. Okay, there's a tiny scratch. I have the video. It was saved on the Tesla. Hold on a second. Carlos is back. So a Farmer George is asking, did I call the cops on the Ford driver who hit my car?
Oh, what a jerk.
So I have the video, but even my wife is like, called insurance and everything. But I'm like, okay, there's a little scratch, by the way. He didn't hit it he didn't slam into it enough where there's like a massive dent. It's just a tiny scratch.
Right.
do I go after insurance and all that? Because then my premiums go up for a tiny scratch.
But no, I don't think you want to actually go through the insurance for the claim, but I think you want to put it on the guy's radar and say, I'll go through it if you don't pay me to fix it on the
Well,
side.
how do I get to him? I have to contact.
You get it through the insurance. Look, I had the same thing happen when we got back from Spain. That first week back, I was driving home. I had the kid in the car, and it was like bumper to bumper traffic. Car in front of me stopped short. I stopped short, and I stopped. I didn't hit that car. Then the car behind me hit.
Yeah, but you were there. You were both there.
Yeah,
he left. I wasn't there.
But it doesn't matter. The process was still the same. I said, look, we got to exchange insurance information. I called my insurance. I said, I have the camera. I can show you the video of her hitting my car. They were like, it's so cut and dry. But even the woman in the insurance company said, look, we can process this claim, but I can't guarantee your rate's not going to go up. If you want to negotiate with this woman on the side and get it fixed, we'll just erase the fact that this claim ever happened. I called the woman on the side and I said, look, you're going to pay for this anyway. It's just a matter of whether your insurance is going to go up after or you just pay for it out of pocket, right? Because you're going to have to pay for it anyway. And she ended up paying for it. The only thing that I did was I made sure that the repair got done within the window of time that you have to make a claim. How long
do you have?
I think it's like 2 weeks. Okay. So as long as the repair happens within 2 weeks and you can still file a claim if the guy disappears, you're okay.
Yeah, maybe. Once again, like scratches in New York City, it sucks. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I'm not that precious about it.
Honestly. All right, you're basically telling everyone on this Zoom, on this call, that like if you see Vitaly's car, just bring it up.
No.
Kick the tire, piss on it.
Like, if I show you the video, this person, whoever it was, went pretty fast. Remember,
do you not have the video loaded? Show it.
You want to see the video?
Yeah, show it.
All right. Does anybody here else want to see the video? We want to talk about Palantir for 30 minutes. All right. I'll present. Oh,
Matt R's asking, where's Amit?
Hey guys.
Hey, Matt R, you're on our channel now. And we've only invited Chris.
Amit is working.
Did you just wake up, man?
Yeah, man. Literally just like 15 minutes ago. The wife's like, come on, you got to do the pod tonight. I was like, all right.
All right. I hope you're wearing underwear right now.
Yeah, I am.
No. He's pushing his OnlyFans. He wants to do his own Discord, a Substack.
Right. You know what? I just asked. I was like, which one do I want to like commit some time to? Because I have. Okay, so this is what happened. I did a video with Farzad, right? And one of the comments that I saw, and you should never really take the bait on trolls, but the comment that the guy made is, oh, this guy's just pulling stuff off the top of his head. I was talking about some of the advancements in AI around healthcare. So, I work in this space. I actually use the product. So when someone calls you out and says, you don't know what you're talking about, this is like pie in the sky dreams. You're like, wait a second. So how do I address this? But how do I address it in a way that like I can show people like what it is? Now I could do it on a Discord server, but there will only be people that want to just join whatever. And, or I could do a Substack and basically outline all the stuff that I have and actually give references, give videos on it. Like there's actually product demos on it that actually show you that it's happening, testimonials. So like all these things. And so I was trying to decide which one to do. But so I'm leaning more towards a Substack because that's the easiest way I could post it on there. But Substack doesn't have nearly the amount of engagement tools that Discord does, right? Like right now, if you want to have like a debate on a topic or someone wants to ask you a very like specific question, you can do it very easily on a Discord. So
I was debating Discord because you can do your own channel where only you have access to post your research.
Yeah.
And people can maybe comment or do sub threads, but they can't take over your channel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, you know what the problem the problem that I find with Discord is that there's a lot of conversations that we have, especially now that it's been around so long. It's very hard to find some of this content. And it's really hard. Like you can't tag it. Like you almost want like a hashtag system where like if there was a great conversation, say around something, say to do with ENVX, right? You want to group that conversation and be able to pull it back. It just ends up being lost in a feed. And there's some things that we've talked about where I'm like, didn't so-and-so mention something about that? Let me look it up. Dude, it's almost impossible to find.
Dude, I totally know exactly what you mean, Carlos. Like some of the stuff you want to, like when someone posts a really good idea on a Discord, you want to do the research on it, but you may not do it right at that moment.
Yeah.
And you may, and then you hear something that's happening in the market. You're like, oh, you know what? I remember this guy spoke about this one thing one time. Let me go see and take a further look because I'm starting to hear it more and more. And so you want to follow up on that research, but then you'd have to like literally go back. And sometimes if it's been a healthy conversation, like we've been having on some of the Discord stuff on your guys' channel, it's like you have to go back and it's hard to find.
It's gone.
So
It's hard to find. I try to pin some stuff that's important, but even then, it's like how many things are going to pin?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Cameron Vincent saying, just take screenshots, and like that's not what I'm looking for.
It's not a
what
solution.
I'm looking for. Yeah, because what you want is you want to be able to take some of the conversations that you have and almost group them together, like topically, so that it can be available to people. Because like there was a great conversation we had. There was someone high up on, remember in Arcimoto, and I think he was one of our patrons, and we had just an extensive conversation about some of the back end that was going on. I was like, man, I really wanted to go back and revisit that conversation, but you'd have to scroll forever, and it's hard to find via keywords or even by user. Anyway, so the only other comment I would make is, dude, if somebody's on the internet saying that you don't know what you're talking about, I would not feel one bit that you have to answer that.
Well, you know what it was?
Have to respond to that.
Yeah. It's not so much that, it's that they thought it was like pie in the sky. Like this is like, to be honest, if I was listening to on the other end, I would feel that it's a bit hyperbolic also, because sometimes the way I spoke about it, I guess I was a little excited about it, but that's because I actually see the product. Like, you know, all these people that gave testimonials on Tesla early on saying, look, this is a great car. Like, I love driving it. And I remember there was also other people that were just targeting them saying, oh, you know what, this car sucks because electrical, you'll never be able to find a charging station, all this other stuff. And it was like, you know, you don't know the experience of a Tesla owner because you're not a Tesla owner. Right. So the first thing you should do is, you know, what's the saying? I think hedge funds do this too. Like, put the company in your mouth, right? I don't know if you heard of that before. It was a quote on Billions, where if you don't trust, or if you hear someone saying something, the best thing to do, go for a drive on a Tesla. Go find a friend who has a Tesla, right? Go on a ride with them, see how it feels, test it out, right? If you don't believe Chris, search for the thing that he's talking about and find it, because it's not hard to find these things on YouTube. Like, here's an example. One of the examples that I gave was Meta working in the healthcare space to improve MRI so that you don't take an hour and it only takes 10, 15 minutes, right? Dude, Meta did an entire presentation on this with testimonials from NYU doctors, and they actually show the product off live in a feed on YouTube. All you have to do is type in Meta MRI time saving, and boom, it's like the first thing that pops up on YouTube. But people don't do that. So it's like, okay, how do I actually engage and help people understand that, you know what, there are broader topics around theses that you should work at and look at and do some research.
Well, I just want to point out, people listening to Farzad are not looking to broaden out their topics.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, as creators,
they're interested in one thing. Okay.
Tesla, I know. But the thing is, even among creators, you know, most of the creators in the space with regards to Tesla and everything else, you know, everyone is trying to broaden their investment base. Because I mean, if you pigeonhole yourself into just one singular topic, you're limiting access to information, right? That could make you a better investor. And if you apply the same logic, and if someone got in at Tesla early and they were able to do really well, whatever logic that led you to Tesla could probably lead you to companies like Enphase, right? Where once you do more in-depth research, you realize, wait a second, there's more to this equation than meets the eye.
Nobody that would do that though would write comments like the ones you're responding to as far as that. You understand? Yeah. Like, as a content creator, I think your only job is to just add value, right? So if you're adding value, like if one person out of 10 writes a comment like that, but 9 other people get value out of what you're saying, then they're gonna do well. It is not your job to force people to become better investors. Yeah. The people that want to be are already on the path that you're saying. They're going to listen to you. They'll do their own research and they'll move on. All those people that just make comments like that and try to discredit you. Yeah. It's a waste of your time. Because even if you attacked and showed that guy exactly why you were wrong, someone else is going to come in afterwards. You'll spend your whole time just combating trolls.
And by no means do I think that I'm infallible. I'm just, like I said, for me, this was one of those things that it wasn't even like investment advice. It wasn't like, oh, you should invest in this, or you should look at this. It was like, look, this is where AI is headed. These are the new products that are coming out. These are the things that I'm seeing on a day-to-day. It wasn't even like investment advice on anything. But the whole point of our conversation for that one video was around how big tech, I think we think of just like ChatGPT and some of these products like, oh, it's going to replace this, but going to replace that. But it's like, this is not a new thing that these companies have been working on. Like Meta has been working on AI since 2016 and earlier. You know, everyone thinks like Meta is like so far behind in the AI
They think
race.
it just started, right?
Yeah, it's like, no, Meta's been doing this. Like Meta was the top consumer of AI chips before anyone else. If you go to last year, 2 years ago, Nvidia was like, one of the reasons why Zuckerberg spent so much money on CapEx is because dude was buying up every single AI chip he could find. I mean, a lot of it was to support the metaverse, but then also there were other divisions working on other products in Meta for other industries, right? So same thing with Amazon. Amazon is not like 100 years behind in AI. You know, they're pretty up there too. They have their own chipsets, like what is that thing called? Like the Graviton chips for their AWS. So there's a lot. I think what it is AI has become more of a conversation point after ChatGPT, but there were a lot of companies that have been doing AI before. And the strongest candidate in terms of AI from a historical perspective has been Google. Yet right now everyone's like Google's dead. It's like Google's not necessarily dead. They're just they're the ones that wrote the white paper that's based. It's funny how ChatGPT ended up benefiting the most out of all of this, but it was Google that did the research.
I just put up a poll, by the way, just to see, is Meta an AI company? Let's see what people say. But Carlos, you don't think Meta's an AI company, right? Or do you? I've never asked you this.
Are they an AI company? They have
Yeah.
AI. They have elements to their business that involve AI, but I wouldn't call them an AI company. No. Just because they have.
Why would you say that? Because they have to deal with every single language on Earth.
Okay.
So they're actually transcribing, getting all the information. It's all being parsed. Everything you say, everything you do,
Right.
it's all being incorporated into their model to serve you proper ads. It's not doing ChatGPT right now. I'm not saying that, but
that's what I think most people consider it. Where AI is a tool versus it's a service that they use. Like, yeah, they're using it to
internally.
transcribe.
They're using it internally to
it's
serve
not
their
like
own
they're
purposes.
offering AI services to you, the end user. They're using it on the back end.
I actually found that always as a problem with Meta. Like, I don't understand. My bull case is if Mark Zuckerberg opens up their AI so other people can use those tools for their own purposes, which he's not. Chris, do you have any idea when this is going to happen? Is this ever going to happen, that they're going to open it up? Because their super cluster is probably one of the biggest AI clusters in the world.
Yeah, they you know, I always ask myself, like, what the end goal for Meta's AI projects were. And I mean, originally the purpose was to help develop the metaverse so that you could create an entire world very easily, seamlessly, right? So you needed artificial intelligence. If you think that you can use the same developer tools that you've been using to create like the next Halo, and somehow that would be enough for the metaverse, it wasn't going to be. Like, you needed tools that could let you like create worlds very easily, right? So it's one of those things that I think the original purpose was to support the metaverse, and they wanted to like make sure that was the primary goal in research. But then, you know, as ChatGPT and all these other things come along, you know, that experience and that know-how can be ported over into different business lines. And I think Meta could do it eventually. That's one of those unknowns that's going to be hard to gap for a lot of people. So the perfect example that I would give in regards to this would be around Amazon AWS, right? AWS was created by Amazon for their own internal purposes because they hated the fact that they had to constantly get more stuff, more like services. And they were like, hey, why don't we just run our own data centers? Why don't we just run our own data stuff so that we can be very efficient? And so Andy Jassy, who's the current CEO, worked with Bezos to set that up. And then they realized that they had excess compute. They had excess resources. So they said, well, why don't we sell some of these excess resources to other people? And
before you go on, I don't understand why Mark is not doing this. This is what I get back to. Like, Jeff Bezos realizes, oh, we have this extra compute. Let's sell it. Let's make some money on it. I'm sure Facebook has extra compute.
Yeah, I you know what? That's one of those questions that I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Going back to our conversation, our last one about Palantir, that is a failure of the CEO.
Yeah,
it could be. Honestly, that's one ding I would say. Absolutely. Why is Mark so interested in doing his own thing, which is the metaverse, of course, and using AI for his advertising tech. I get that.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense. But why can't everybody else use it and make some?
So
And
I
they can
think
charge for
Mark,
it.
it seems
Yeah.
to me like Mark's goal is to become like an Apple-like company. I don't think he wants to be pigeonholed as that. I think he wants to have products and services and be seen in the same conversation as Apple, a juggernaut like Apple, where Apple not only creates the products, they also create the hardware and then services on top of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
but
what I think. I
Apple
think he wants
charges
to.
me for photos. Apple charges me for data. You know,
Mhm.
like they're charging me for everything now. $5 for this, $10
Yeah.
for that. I mean, why can't Mark do that? He's starting to, by the way.
Mark can't do that because they don't have the product that you're acquiring those images on yet. That's why I think he's so gung ho about being first in the metaverse, so that everything that happens in the metaverse goes through Mark. In the same way that right now, everything that if you like the iPhone is the portal, right? So Facebook is just an app on it. And I think he wants to get away from that. I think he was really burned by the changes that Apple made to the privacy and the damage that it caused them in the company. And he's adamant about not having that happen again.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you brought this up, Carlos. Elon Musk.
Yeah, we haven't even really talked about this. This was Elon Musk and other tech leaders call for a pause on dangerous race to make AI as advanced as humans. Artificial intelligence labs have been urged by Elon Musk and numerous other industry figures to stop training AI systems more powerful than GPT-4, OpenAI's latest language model. An open letter signed by Musk and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. Technology leaders urged for a 6-month pause to the development of such advanced AI, saying it represents a risk to society. I'm just curious what you guys take us on that. And if this is something that we should be, because we're investing in these companies and this is going to happen no matter what. I think that what we have historically considered weapons is changing, right? I don't think people really see this as a threat as they see it. And I think it's really hard educating the public on the dangers of it because it's so far removed from our everyday lives. But this is concerning if these people, and these are the people in the know, this is not like the average person. These are people that really know what's going on behind the scenes, and they're urging all companies to stop training AI.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. That's a silly thing to say. Hey, stop developing your technology, because when the government tells Elon Musk or anybody says, hey, stop developing your technology like FSD, he's not going to stop, and he doesn't want to stop. So I think that's wrong of him to do that to other companies. But if his call is to just make it safer, that maybe we should have rules, a kill switch, for example, something like that. I totally understand that as it develops. But honestly, a large language model is not the same thing as general AI. It's just not. I don't care what you guys think. ChatGPT is not general AI. It cannot do your homework yet. It can answer obviously questions based on language, but it is not like a robot who goes in and assassinates you. That's not what it is.
No,
and
it's not what it
it's
is.
not using its general artificial intelligence like you have a brain to do that. It's not doing that at all.
But if you just read this highlighted section here, it seems like they're worried more about the disruption to the job markets more than like an actual threat to people. Contemporary AI systems are now becoming human competitive at general tasks. We must ask ourselves, should we let machines flood our information channels with propaganda and untruth? That's something that's true. Where
isn't Twitter already doing that without
and that's what he's trying to combat. I mean, that's what he's trying to combat with the verification. Should we automate away all jobs, including the fulfilling ones? Should we develop non-human minds that might eventually outnumber, outsmart, obsolete, and replace us? Should we risk loss of control of our civilization? Now that's like taken to the extreme, but the idea is like, if you keep pumping into AI, and we had this conversation, it has the ability of doing the work of several people. And I think people in creative industries felt like they were protected for a long time. And I think what we've seen recently is that AI is actually very good at doing creative tasks. And those industries are in more danger than it may have seemed. But it's
so let me ask you this. See, it's weird that Elon Musk is saying this because he was the one that originally tried to do the Model 3 all automated. Remember, he was trying to do that and it didn't work out as well.
Yeah.
So it's weird that he's saying to stop funding or stop developing AI research when he's literally doing the same thing right now. I don't know how he separates what he's doing from what is going on with OpenAI.
It's not not as clear.
That's a good point, because if you think about it, if the ultimate conversational argument here that's being made is, well, it's going to disrupt humans and they're going to lose their jobs. Yeah, but Elon, I mean, come on, bro. You're trying to replace the human driver, which is probably the most not sought after, but the most there's a lot of jobs that revolve around driving people around and driving products around. If you replace the human, you're basically kicking a lot of people out of their jobs. A lot of people are truck drivers. A lot of people, drive livery vans. People drive,
But
taxis. So
yeah, well, yeah. Why is that okay? Why is that okay for him?
it's okay because Tesla's #1 mission above the sustainable, all the sustainable energy is safety. It's safety. At the end of the day,
No. I
they're
agree
already
with
being able to
you,
prove that they're safer drivers.
but he's being a hypocrite here. He's being a total hypocrite.
How so?
What do you mean, how so? We're talking about he's willing to forget about all the drivers, all the jobs of driving. And don't forget the bots that he's making that are going to eliminate work. What does work even mean when no one has to work?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that what he says? So ChatGPT is doing very similar things.
Oh yeah,
What's
like
the
all the people in your call centers, all the people. But it's different because you don't have to, like, we don't have a problem with people with chatbots getting injured, right? We don't have babies dying from a conversation with chatbots, whereas you could have people getting killed and innocent people losing their lives as a result of poor driving. So
are you trying to save the kids? Is that what you're trying to do?
if we can, as long as we make money, right?
Well, the thing is, I think one of the
Agreed.
conversations, one of the points of the conversation was there's a movement towards replacing human decisions with ones driven by AI, right? I think that's what scares them, that you can theoretically create an arbitrary AI that is non-judgmental, non-impartial according to an algorithm, and it just does like decision making. So people are like, well, now humans don't have to make decisions and we could just leave it up to the AI. And I don't know where, I thought I saw in the news that they left like sentencing for a murderer up to an AI. Did you see that?
I did see that.
I did read that. I mean,
they asked. Well, I don't know. Did the judge? I don't know if the judge took the AI's generation into consideration, but I don't know that it was like, hey, we just let the AI decide.
The AI says you should die.
No, the funny thing is, you'd be
Commodus and Gladiator.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Imagine it's just a thumbs up or
depending on the emoji.
Idiocracy, right? Idiocracy.
Yeah. I mean, imagine I know lawyers right now. A lot of them are using ChatGPT and stuff like that to like reference laws and find stuff. So basically they would put in the case, they put in some of the evidence, and then it would create like different arguments on why, they're right, they're wrong, X, Y, and Z. So it's kind of cool. Even like Jason Calcanis on the All In Potty described a thing where this guy took his dog to like the vet prescribed him something and it wasn't working. So the guy went on ChatGPT, put in the same symptoms, and the first result that came by was the same one that the vet did, but they said it could also be number 2 and number 3. And basically they found out that it was actually something else. And so he went to another vet and said, hey, I think my dog might have this. And the guy, the other doctor said, sure, that's probably what it is, gave him medicine and, helped the dog. So now that guy has become an evangelist for replacing vets with AI. It's like, oh, but I think AI is supposed to be used as a tool to augment human ability, not necessarily replace us. And if that's the context that you're using it in, we should keep advancing AI. In terms of economic impact, though, AI is going to be super deflationary. You thought the internet was deflationary, technology is deflationary, bro. Once you incorporate AI, the cost of decision making, the cost of research is going to be going down like 5-fold, which is going to be crazy to think about how that's going to impact the economy. Because if you think about from an economic standpoint, what is deflation? Deflation just means you can do something at a cheaper price than everyone else, and you can bring the cost of a product down. So what cost 10 years ago, if you can reduce it down by a factor of 5 and 10 years later, that means that you're going to get a deflationary spiral. So right now everyone is concerned about inflation. Bro, I'm concerned about deflation, to be honest with you guys, because once AI starts hitting mainstream and people lose their, let's say people do lose their jobs, what does that mean? That means that there's going to be less money in the economy where people are employed, because now there's going to be AI models helping the top 10, 20% of people in their jobs literally excel like crazy, which means that the bottom 80 are going to be in a lot of trouble.
So hold on. I want to bring up, because Carlos is on the fence. Well, he's not on the fence. He's saying that basically jobs will be lost. And we had a conversation today about creative jobs being lost because we're in the creative field. But I also think that there's going to be a job expansion. So, and the counterpoint to that is that I think why there's a job expansion, because when people stopped farming, it's not like they just went home and died, right? New industries were created with the Industrial Revolution. Cars killed off horses. Of course, the person working on horses might not have a job, but if he moved on to something else, there was more opportunity. So that's why I think opportunity will expand and not contract. But I think Carlos says the opposite. And Chris, I want to know also where you are on this.
I
Real
would
quick,
say
before we go any further, I just want to read. Josh B had a good comment here. Elon wants more regulation on AI, which is probably a good thing, not a total wild west arms race. And I think that's the point here. Regulation is important because it is a really powerful tool that it can disrupt a lot of lives, even if it's not indirectly by eliminating the jobs, right? And I think that's part of it. This is what we talk about in crypto, right? The day that they get more regulation on crypto, it goes to the moon because the people feel more comfortable investing. And I think that's what Elon's trying to get to, that it doesn't become an AI arms race where it's like whoever has the most powerful AI wins and that they start attacking each other. It's just making sort of the rules.
That's fine, but then shouldn't we have an FSD regulation happening right now as well?
They already do. They have them. They have the organizations that are monitoring.
Well, right now, technically, Elon is doing an FSD beta with 400,000 people. Technically, I mean, legal or not, I don't know, but because the fault lies right now with the people using it, but it's in the gray area. It's not exactly clear who's responsible here.
But it's very clear. I mean,
who's responsible?
If you read the disclaimer,
you're responsible. You use FSD, you're responsible.
Yeah, but I think if the car is under control, if the car is under Tesla's control and it crashes, I don't think that person's insurance. I don't think they are liable for the damages.
I think insurance would have something else to say about that. I don't think so. Elon does not cover that bill.
I'm going to look it up real quick.
No, Elon definitely does not cover that bill. I think the only company, I think it was who said we will cover the bill for our FSD was maybe someone in the comments. It was, I don't know, Jaguar or someone like that. Someone useless who's never going to do FSD.
I'm in between you guys. I think it's going to depend on the age group, right? So when you're younger, it's easy to adapt to new things and new challenges and adopt new programs that come around. But people in their, let's say, 50s and 60s, they're definitely not going to be able to adapt as quickly. So I think it's going to depend, like how fast we transition might leave a lot of people without prospects of a proper future. I think with AI, the way that I would best set up the economy would be lowering the age when you can retire, but also increasing the amount of inputs from the younger generation. I know that sounds counterproductive, probably because I'm closer to retire, going to be closer to retirement. But basically what I would say is, like, you guys remember this whole thing with learn to code, where people were just like, oh, I lost my job doing X, Y, and Z. And it's like, oh, why don't you just go learn to code? And it was like, what? Yep. You expect someone in their fucking 40s and 50s to go?
It's funny you say that. I have a friend of mine in this industry who did that exact thing while he was out, because there was a gap in employment. And what did he do? He went out and he took a coding class. Now, look, if that's what he feels he needs to do, but I'm asking myself, okay, so let's say you do take a 6-month course and you get certified. Do you really think that that's going to replace your income when you're in your mid 40s learning coding? You're not going to compete against the guy that's 20 something years old. And you as an employer, are you going to hire the guy who learned how to code in their 40s? Or the kid who did a video game in their bedroom when they were 15 years old?
Well, I just want to point out they will hire the guy, at least right now, in their 40s, because we don't have enough coders. We don't have enough engineers right now. I don't know if that'll change.
That's the key right there, Vitaly. I think with AI, that's definitely going to change.
So ChatGPT has ruined that guy's life.
So I'm saying, just when you were able to get into the industry, they'll have tools that will allow ChatGPT to do it. I don't know if it was you and I sent that video of the guy that had never coded before and made a video game in 15 minutes on YouTube. And he's like, I don't know how to code, but I'm making this game just using ChatGPT commands to adjust the parameters.
I think the new buzzword now is going to go from learn to code to learn to prompt. Right? Where it's like, if you know how to prompt the AI, you will be successful because you know how to get the AI to output the stuff that you need to happen, right? Because that's how ChatGPT and these LLMs work. If you ask it the right question, it'll do everything that you need it to do in a very time-oriented manner. Everything will be great. But if you ask it a question and you phrase it in the wrong way, it's still going to give you an answer, but it's going to be a stupid answer. It's going to be a hallucination.
Nonsense.
Right? And you should be able to distinguish between a hallucination and what's real. So that's the other thing too. Like, even the AI is not smart enough to pick things up yet that a human would. Like, here's an example that I gave on someone posted like an AI generated image of Elizabeth Warren in an army uniform,
I
and
saw that.
I saw that.
and it was a chuckle. Everyone got it. Like human, we can tell that that is not a real soldier, right? But AI, it generated that image. It probably thinks it's real. Now, here's the thing: if it wasn't Elizabeth Warren, it was just some random person.
I just want to point out AI is not thinking anything.
I would have still been able to figure out that that's a AI generated image, because I was former military. The minute I saw the flag patch on the left side and the place where it was placed, I was just like, yeah, either that person's faking or this is not real.
Yeah, but those are things that are so easy to fix. I mean, even now, Vitaly and I were looking at this video, and remember from Avatar, that one shot of like the hand coming out of the water. We sent that video. This one shot, I don't know. They must have used like AI tools to create this shot of like a hand coming out of the water, and everything in your brain is telling you that it's real. It's so unbelievable. It's just like one random shot, and it looks so unbelievably real that it's indistinguishable to us. So what you're talking about, those are really easy things to fix. And as it gets better and better and better, it's going to get indistinguishable from reality.
Well, think about 20 to 25, maybe 30 years ago, Mario, right? That's what we were playing.
Yeah.
Pong 30 years ago. And now, have you looked at Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption and all these games?
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
or like in the 90s, the T-1000 walking through the gate in the whatever that prison gate was like the most incredible graphics ever.
And now Corridor Digital recreated that. Maybe not as good, but just a couple of YouTubers recreated that.
We're able to recreate that. Oh yeah, or like Transformers, the first Transformers, it took 31 hours to render a frame. 31 hours to render one frame. They almost didn't render the movie in time. Now you're seeing a lot of this stuff with the newest NVIDIA GPUs. It's getting almost real-time ray tracing. That was like the holy grail.
Right. It could be like minutes now as opposed to hours.
Yeah, minute, especially on the clusters now.
So 30 years from now, the metaverse is real.
It renders it in real time. Yeah, it just renders it in real time.
To me, I think the area that's ripe for disruption that I would like to see disrupted is the education segment and the education market. And the way that I would put it is that, this is the idea that I had about 5 years ago thinking about this, which was, well, everyone right now, we go to school, right? And we're supposed to go to this class and we're supposed to sit there and learn together, and the teacher teaches and we have to absorb it. But we all know there's going to be people who absorb things really easily, very fast. And there's going to be people that take a really long time. And sometimes they need a little bit more extra attention. But the way that our system currently works is that everyone just gets this cookie cutter blanket education. And some people will get it and they'll be able to understand it and they'll be able to excel, while others will be end up getting left behind. And then that left behind goes into the next year, and then they're further left behind. Then the year after that, they get left behind further. With AI, we could probably set it up now so that you have the individual experience where the person is being taught, and then you could ask it, they could prompt you for answers, and that person can answer those questions and then give it like a grading scale, like, okay, from 1 to 10, how much did this person really understand? And if it's above a certain benchmark, it'll let them go into like the next learning lesson, but then also like incorporate that last few things in there to get them to understand it more. And it just keeps going on and on. Like, I saw one of my friends, their kid is using this software that specifically like does AI learning for math, right? Where the kid is learning how to do math using AI. And I swear to God, like within probably 5-10 years, this kid is going to be like an MIT grad. All right. And this is how crazy AI is, because it can augment the ability of the student to learn and learn very fast and actually get the material, comprehend it, and then move to the next thing. So that now you can actually condense down so much learning into a more attractive way too. Like when we were growing up, you guys remember Hooked on Phonics?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hooked on Phonics worked for me.
Yeah, I had Hooked on Phonics because I was like, English was my second language. When I came here when I was 5 years old, both my parents, they spoke Gujarati and Hindi exclusively. They didn't speak English a lot. So English was a second language for me. But I couldn't really spell too good. Now, Hooked on Phonics helped a lot. like to get me to that point. Now, here's the thing: Hooked on Phonics was what I'm talking about, like back in the day, where you can do individualized learning, right? Where you didn't have to rely on just going to classes to get your education done. So I think eventually we could see a point where instead of going to school, you could probably do like AI university. I don't know.
Well,
You
I do
know?
want to point out, I was going to say this too, ET FaceTime Home, that yes, Khan Academy is probably one of the beneficiaries of this because they already have a way you can follow their course where it repeats problems you don't know, it shows you new information, it shows you the old one again. So I think this like Chat GPT type thing would be totally up Sal Khan's, ass. If that's the right thing.
Dude, I'm telling you, I before ChatGPT and all this other stuff, dude, I loved Khan Academy. Khan
Yep.
Academy was awesome. The way that
Yep.
he broke things down into like simplistic things, it was very easy to understand. It's easy to grasp the material. And I wasn't around other people, so like it was like, you guys remember what school was like? That shit was distracting as fuck, man. Like I hated school, but even
But
back
part
then,
of the reason why you're in school is for the social aspect of it. That's
Yeah.
a huge component of it, where you learn how to work with people, you learn how to be challenged, you learn how to keep a routine, you learn how to be somewhere at a certain time, prepared to do a task. That's a huge part of business. It's not
Yeah.
just the information,
Right. No, and I agree. That's the part that I would be hard. It would be hard pressed to replicate that anywhere else. But I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I just know that technology tends to bring about a lot of progress. It's just figuring out a way to make that progress happen for everybody that's going to be difficult. I think the older generations, the transitioning is going to be hard for them. Like for us as kids, we were using email and going online and doing this crazy things, and everything seemed seamless to us. And for my dad, it was just like, oh my God, this is like a completely different world. But now I think about it, now my dad's on Facebook and he's posting all sorts of shit. He's doing all sorts of crazy things. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool,
Yeah, I want to play this for you. This is a flawless use of truth. And let me know if you don't hear the audio. If you don't hear the audio.
Now we're stuck on this stupid tower in the middle of nowhere. And I don't blame you. And now we're stuck on this stupid freaking tower in the middle of freaking nowhere. And it's all my fault. 軽蔑してるよね。仕方ないよ。Y es todo por mi culpa.
Do you know how many? Okay, I can stop sharing now. Do you know how many jobs that was for in the business?
They would never do that, the mouth replacement to match different languages, first of all. Now it's possible.
Now it's possible. But the idea is like, do you know how many teams of people there are that are involved in translating the languages, recording the ADR, like recording that? Those are producers, writing scripts, all the fact checkers. Do you understand how many people that technology displaces in this creative business? That is hundreds of people, and that's just one network. And they can do that instantly, and it's better because it's not just dubbed, right? It's
kind of good
adjusting the mouth to do it. Where this chick can not say words when you don't need her to, she can keep her mouth shut, or she can speak in another language. I don't think people understand like how disruptive that is. It looks cool, and as an end user, that's amazing, but that's hundreds of people's jobs.
Yeah.
They're not coming back. In terms of the analogy of farmers, there's nowhere for those people to go. Like they're just out of a job.
Farmers went away too. That was the point. Most people are not farmers. So
I'm saying though, in your analogy of farmers, there's nowhere for those people to go to. Like that was their specialty, and now it's an algorithm, and it does it perfectly.
So Carlos brought a negative point for AI. Let me bring a positive point for AI on.
I think Carlos was just fired, by the way, for an AI.
When a patient is scanned for an MRI, high-powered magnets and radio waves gather raw data to create images of their anatomy. But capturing all this data can take up to an hour, which can be difficult or impossible for some patients who can't stay still like small children. Long scan times also limit how many patients can be evaluated in a day, especially in places with limited MRI access. It also means that MRIs could be too slow for emergency situations like strokes, where doctors need images quickly.
With Fast MRI, NYU Langone and Facebook AI are using artificial intelligence to make MRI scans much faster. To do this, we created the largest open-source de-identified MRI dataset and used it to train a deep neural network. This enables our AI to generate accurate images from far less data. Since less data is needed, scans can be much faster.
We've now completed the first major test for fast MRI. In a rigorous clinical study, radiologists found AI-generated images created with 4 times less data were diagnostically interchangeable with traditional MRIs.
Okay, can you stop it right there?
Testing
Can you
is
stop it right
currently
there?
underway, but the study shows
Like that's an example of that's an example of what I think AI should be used for and does really well. Like that's something that you would normally wait a long time and causing discomfort for patients. A Luddite. I'm not being a Luddite. This is not about saying we shouldn't adopt the technology. This is about being realistic about what it's capable of and what the implications are going to be.
No,
it's not about saying we're not going to, it's not even saying like we shouldn't go this direction. It's about just having the whole
people will
conversation.
be displaced. That's the point. People will be 100% displaced.
Have the whole conversation and just accept that like these things are also these things also come along with it. In this case, in this example, that's great. It allows them to see more patients on a daily basis. It shrunk the waiting time down. It's more comfortable for the patients, and literally, it doesn't displace anybody's job.
Well, no,
it
the
just
doctor
makes them
makes less
actually
money.
more productive.
The doctor makes less money.
Well,
because
see,
now
The doctor will make more money now.
Well,
and the hospital will make more money.
The hospital. So here's the thing: you would think that, right? Like the hospital will make more money, the doctor will make more money. But here's the thing: when you increase throughput, you're also decreasing the total cost, right? Which means that now, if you're able to do 4 times as many patients, in like the face, it seems like, oh, the hospital will make 4 times as much money, until you realize every other hospital is going to be making 4 times as many MRIs happen than they were last year, which means the cost of an MRI will drop from $1,000, right, where we had it before. Right now, if you get let's say a knee MRI, it'll drop from $1,000 down to $100.
Yeah,
which
but
is
this
amazing.
is what we want.
but
right.
this
It is amazing. But
it is what you want, because
That's
the
what we want.
volume. It's like when Tesla lowered prices on the car. Yes, the margin was less, but the overall volume should be should be more money on the bottom line,
right?
Not less.
And so that's the key. That like right now, one of the most crazy amount of spending that happens is in healthcare right now, right? If you want technology in terms of AI is super, super needed in the concept of healthcare, because the cost of healthcare is just, you guys know, it's just crazy, right?
Ridiculous.
So when you have products like this, it just means that 1, the patients will get better outcomes, and 2, you'll be able to do it in a way more cost-effective way. So I think that's the key, right? When it comes to AI, it's going to be industry dependent, where some industries will benefit tremendously and other industries are going to, and especially people within that industry, are going to have a tough time.
But I want to point out, when the price of things goes down, that's not a bad thing, first of all. That's good for the world.
Yeah.
And the MRI thing going down, yes, there'll be more throughput. The prices go down 100, like you're saying. But how many more people are going to have access to a better healthcare that they wouldn't pay before? Because right now, an MRI is what, $2,000, $1,500, something like that, right? Somewhere around 2,000.
Yeah, with non-contrast versus contrast. Yeah, so yeah, it's between 2,000. Believe it or not, even some of them are up to like $5,000.
I'm saying, but you have to think about that before you got one. If you didn't have proper insurance, you'd be like,
he's
no,
like, how bad do I really need this knee? You know, he's like, I got another one.
I just got an MRI for something. This was like maybe 8 months ago. I had to call them up because I don't have conventional good insurance with a company. I'm a freelancer. So I was like, okay, how much is this going to cost me? Okay.
For the transition surgery.
Well, yeah, my transition surgery. How did you know?
It's not covered.
Can you make an innie into an Audi?
She's like, how much? Well, she's like, what? Just tell, get your insurance involved, whatever. I'm like, no, I have crappy insurance. How much is it going to cost me to do this? And she's like, well, we don't know. Okay, we have to go contact the office. I'm like, okay, connect me to the office. Go find out. And when I finally got to the office after an hour of back and forth, she's like, okay, it's between between $500 and $2,000. That was the best they can do. It's between there.
Between $500 and $1,000.
And even then,
depending on your insurance, that's all because of the deals they make with insurance carriers. So I'm like,
the other,
why isn't
the
there a
other,
price for this shit?
But doesn't that have to do with that? Has to do with the time on the machine, right? Like the machine.
no.
No,
So
Billable hours.
so let me explain
No,
how.
same time. It was 10 minutes.
So let me give you an explanation why there's huge price discrepancies. Okay, and this is the industry bullshit that I hate too. Trust me, I'm in the industry and I fucking hate it. Okay, the way that it works is that you've got these middlemen in the system called PBMs, right? These are the ones that are going to be managing the insurance. So everyone thinks that your insurance company directly pays the hospital, and yes and no. The way that it works is you as the benefit manager, let's say you have 1 million patients under your plan, right? You go to the hospitals and you privately negotiate saying, look, what is the price at which you are charging for an MRI? So they say, oh, we're charging $2,000. They say, okay, listen, if you only charge 1,000 to my insurance people, then I will make sure that I send them to you, right? So that we have an agreement that if I send my patient to you, you won't charge 2,000, you'll only charge 1,000, right? And then they tell you, hey, your copay for an MRI is $200. So in theory, the insurance company is now going to only pay 800, you pay 200, everyone is happy, the hospital gets 1,000 because they need to drum up their business. All that good stuff happens. But now there's a perverse incentive the next time, because now what happens is if you ever got a bill and the insurance company, like the bill was $80,000, the insurance company covered $60,000 or $70,000, and you have to pay $10,000. So you're like, wow, this insurance thing is a great product. I love it, right? Because it covered mostly. I think the part that's kind of perverse is that the people advocating for higher prices at the hospital, do you know who it is?
Who?
Is these fucking middlemen. They have an incentive because what they do is they take all these other insurance carriers, put them all together and become this giant blob, and then say, look, now we have more patients so we can go to these hospital systems and we can extract more from them, right? And then they can go back to their members and say, hey, look, I'm saving you all this money because of this negotiated contract that I have with this hospital. Now, here's the thing. The way that they make money is they get a certain percentage of the money that they save the insurance company. So it's almost like, oh, if they're able to
like
save
that
you,
trim service, that's like that service trim.
if they save you, let's say that MRI scenario, if they save you $1,000, they get a percentage of that. So $5,000, let's say, out of the 1,000, they get 5%. So they get $50 for making sure that you're able to do what you do, right? But the incentive is now you want to grow, right? You're a business. So what do? You go back to the hospital and say, listen, instead of charging $2,000 for an MRI, why don't you charge $5,000? Whoa. What do you mean $5,000? This is going to be great. But guess what? Now you can charge the member, the insurance company, $1,500. And now it's almost like, oh, I saved you $3,500 now, right? When they go to the insurance company. So now on your bill, it's like, wait a second, this MRI costs fucking $5,000, but all of a sudden it only costs $1,500. This is great. I saved $3,500. This company's doing amazing for me. And now there's a perverse incentive to keep jacking up the prices at the hospital, so that this way these insurance companies and these middlemen can say,
so is AI going to help this or not?
Yes and no.
Because it's still, the middleman's still going to be there. It's just going to be more throughput.
Well, that's the thing. And this is where Donald Trump, believe it or not, was actually very right.
I was waiting for that to come up.
One of the things with Trump that he put into place is price transparency, where that you can go to a hospital and see, like when you go to McDonald's, the prices of everything, so that you can't be fucking dicked over.
Exactly.
Right?
We should see the prices of everything. When I asked for prices, they wouldn't give me a price.
Yeah, because I told you
on the MRI, they wouldn't tell you what it cost.
They wouldn't give me, and then I just had to roll the dice to see what I had to pay, because there's you have to pay. Your insurance doesn't cover all of it. There's what is it called, deductibles and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's obnoxious. The whole thing is crazy.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that I hate about the healthcare system in the United States, which is we have all these sort of fucking middlemen that are just extracting money. Like, you think that doctors and people working at the hospital are the ones that are making out like bandits? It's not. Like, I have read about that. Yeah. I
have
could
it.
give two shits whether a person pays $10 or pays $1,000. But these middlemen sit in the middle, fucking making all this money. And I'm a pretty libertarian person, but I honestly think nationalized healthcare is fucking worth it in the United States. We should do nationalized healthcare and get these motherfuckers out where you go to a hospital, you get taken care of, and we figure out everything in between and just provide the service.
Well, I
because
agree.
there's so much wealth being extracted out of people during. And here's the other one last part that's like super perverted that I hate about the healthcare system. When you're in time of need, let's say in an emergency setting, you're not going to be looking at fucking prices. So they know they got you by the balls. So they can charge whatever the fuck they want, and you're just going to have to pay it. Right. So that's yeah, it's just, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a
I
fan
think
of
Carlos's
healthcare
camera's
systems.
going crazy. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it flickering on you too? Okay,
No, it's
so
me. I was trying to
See, you shouldn't
download
have spoken bad about AI. AI is coming after you now, Carlos.
No, I was trying to download some software, and now it's doing something in the background. So
Yeah. Now the AI is like, I got.
all right.
Now he's
Carlos
got me.
guy
and,
is-
but by the way, as Farzad says, my producer wife texted me. She did. She texted me. My producer wife texted. I can't call
What
her
did
by
she
her
want?
name. In fact, our wives are called Cindy. Both of our wives are named Cindy.
Really?
So my producer wife is
Yeah.
Cindy, and Farzad's wife is Cindy, but he calls her anyway. So my
Yeah.
producer wife texted me, and she said, I'll show you the Ford hitting me at the end of the podcast. Otherwise,
Why?
if you're not there, you won't see it. You know, you got to keep.
Yeah.
oh wow, she's trying to keep wow.
Yeah. My producer wife.
I'm
helps
starting
me
to think
out
that
too,
accident
man.
was
Yeah.
fake.
Producer wife, thank you.
Yeah. I'll thank my producer wife too if she's listening. Hi, producer wife.
All
How's
right.
it
So
going?
okay, but back to, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't care if people want to hear about Meta or not, but well, what are the, let's say the 4 or 5 companies to invest in that do AI the best, and don't say Palantir. That's one of the worst. That's the one we're not allowed to talk about. Besides Palantir, well, obviously number 1. What are the other 4 or 5 that you think are clear winners for AI specifically? Obviously, Nvidia's there, I assume.
Yeah, I think Nvidia is definitely on.
we booted Carlos.
I think Nvidia is there, but I would say it might not be a bad idea to look at Intel as well. The only reason why is because
Intel,
when
interesting. You mentioned it. I mean,
Yeah.
are they doing anything in AI?
So yes and no. They definitely have like things around the AI where I know that like they have products around their Xeon line of CPUs that work concurrently with the GPUs, because there's a component to it also where when you have AI in GPUs, you also need like a processors to work on it in a different way to enable it to work. So everyone thinks that, oh, it's just AI can be done on a GPU and everything is great. And it's like, yeah, but you also need like a powerful CPU with a ton of RAM and a lot of other components that enable the product to work. Same thing with like Micron.
Yeah, but no, but all the
yeah.
models are running on GPUs right now, and
No,
nobody's
that's true.
going to be
That's
using
true.
CPUs for AI for the models.
No,
They're
no,
not really good
you're-
for them either. The way that
you're not going to use you're not going to use CPUs to run AI models, but you're also going to need a higher level of CPU to take everything that the GPUs are doing it, combining it, and like allocating the resources. There's, like I said, I am not nearly as versed in the semi industry that I should be, but from what I'm reading, AI could definitely be a big money driver for both AMD and Intel. Because if you think about it from a hardware standpoint, any growth in the industry eventually trickles down to the secondary and tertiary people that are doing it, right? Like so think of it this way. If we had if you're looking at it from like the data center point of view, right? If you're getting all these new GPUs everywhere, that also means you're going like in a rack scale, like in different racks and stuff. That means that the data centers now are going to have components that support that GPU, like the cooling of those GPUs, the server hardware that you need that to put on the GPU. So one of the ones that I have in the short term, which was Supermicro. Supermicro works directly with AMD and NVIDIA and Intel. They have like a very
but that's not an AI
solution.
play. That's not an AI play. I'm saying the companies that are actually involved in creating the models that we will use in the future. NVIDIA.
I don't think that well, that hasn't been decided yet. But to your point, I think
OpenAI, Microsoft.
Yeah, to bet on all of them, you got to bet on the chip makers. You got to bet on the NVIDIA, the AMDs.
Yeah,
you got to bet on those companies until one pulls ahead.
Yeah, to me, it's a picks and shovels play, right? Where basically who's selling the picks and shovels, and NVIDIA is the biggest beneficiary of it because they're selling most of the picks and shovels, right? The question is who's making the handles for that pick, right? Who's
Right.
making, who's providing the metal for that shovel? You know, those are the kinds of things that from an investing standpoint, which a lot of people haven't discovered yet, could end up benefiting tremendously. So that's from an investing standpoint, that's the thing. Me, I'm not nearly as invested in terms of who's got the strongest models. And the point that I would make is the same point that I took into heart when I was listening to the All In Pod this week, which was the first movers. Sometimes they can do very well, but sometimes just because of how they're structured, they're not necessarily the ones that end up making it like making majority of the money off of it. So the examples that you could give is before Google, there were other search engines. You guys remember Excite, Lycos?
Dogpile, Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, Ask Jeeves. But
Yeah.
who ended up benefiting the most? It was Google because of something that they were able to do, which was their inferencing and all this other stuff that they had. It was the same thing with social media. Before Facebook came
PageRank.
along,
It's technically PageRank is what made them
PageRanking, yeah.
billions of dollars.
yeah,
Tens of billions of
Facebook,
dollars.
Yeah, that
Facebook
was it.
wasn't the first social media platform. You had the MySpaces of the world.
Right.
You had I'm forgetting some of the other ones, but I remember
Friendster.
that
You had
Friendster.
Friendster was
Yeah.
another big one for a while.
Right.
There was some others.
So we may be looking at this like, oh, ChatGPT, they're the first to mover, they're gonna dominate everything. And maybe in the short term, that may be the case because they've got the most buzz, but maybe in the end, it could be another player. So I would say, and I agree with the sentiment, which is let the first generation and second generation do its thing. And then once you have like a competitor coming along that's able to do this better somehow, maybe that's the one you want to pick. In my opinion, it could be Google. You know, Google
I
right
think
now
it will be Google because
They're
if you look at
they're a little bit of a-
Microsoft's
They're a little bit of a turtle in the race.
well, Microsoft's history with software. I mean, look, obviously they have popular software like Windows 95 and Office, but their software has always been subpar. Okay, I don't think anyone has actually argued that their software is the best. It's just that they've got the most scale for their software, even back in the 80s. So I would say Google has
Hold
a
on.
much better bet to fix Bard, and I've been using Bard. We can go into some of the examples. I actually did ask similar questions to Bard and ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives better, longer responses, more text, but Google does give you the right answer. So I don't know what everybody's saying. Google's giving you wrong answers. It's like the same answer.
Well, just to piggyback on what you said, part of the reason why Microsoft's software was so successful, even though it's like subpar, is because they had the operating system. And this is what I think partially what Zuck wants to recreate is like, I'm creating the base layer that everyone's got to use. And then on top of that, I can push whatever I want. That's why they pushed Internet Explorer. And that's why they pushed Internet Explorer. They pushed Microsoft Word, PowerPoint. They build them in. There was a whole like lawsuit with that about them locking. And what was it? It was like, didn't they have a thing with like Netscape?
bundling
back in the day?
bundling.
Yeah, it was like you're forcing everyone to use Explorer, and it's a what was it, anti-compete or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
partially that's why we're here right now. Even though there are better word processors, I mean, the Apple Pages and Numbers work really well, but still, every job that I'm on uses that. Although Google Docs has actually been quite the competitor to it. Like, we don't do Word documents anymore. A lot of it's moved on to the cloud.
Are they
So-
using Google Docs in your
Yeah,
organization?
everything's Google, and Dropbox.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting bull case
Which is
because
work.
once you're in that and Google has the data because they're collecting all of it, you're part of their system. I say they have a better chance of eventually making a better product. And I don't know who else is honestly anywhere close to them. Like the large language models, we have OpenAI, obviously. Microsoft owns half of it at this point. So that's basically Microsoft. We have Google. Who's number 3?
in terms of
I mean, who's the third player here? So basically, by Microsoft, by Google, that's it, and you've got 99% of the market in
what are
terms
you
of these
saying?
models.
In-
The large
Well-
language models, there's two players.
Yeah, as of right now,
Well,
yeah.
well, I would say there are the third one is going to be the hodgepodge of other companies out there doing their own things, but haven't necessarily monetized the shit out of it yet. Like I said, I told you, like the examples that we can't think of because they're not big enough yet doesn't mean that they don't have a product in the works that's actually superior to these guys. In terms of OpenAI and Google, from what I can decipher, what's going on is Google had the technology. Google had all this stuff way before anyone else. The thing is, they had internal controls that were put in place to not let this become a bigger thing. Whereas OpenAI was just like, fuck it, let's just put it out there. and see what happens. Like Google was like scared.
Well,
Like,
they're like,
oh
how are
my
we going to
God.
make money on this?
Well, they were, yeah, that was
That's
one
100%
thing.
the case.
And how do we not disrupt our crown jewel, which is Google search? Like, imagine right now you come up with a product and you're like, wow, this is an amazing product. But you're like, wait, I already sell a product.
Right.
You know, if I come up with a new version and it disrupts my original thing, then that's bad. So it's a classic innovator's dilemma. And now Google is stuck because now they literally wrote the book on AI, especially large language models, but they didn't monetize because they felt like they were going to mess up their own business. And now they have a competitor creating a new thing that's probably going to disrupt them.
Isn't it funny? Their research on transformer tech or whatever this was was 10 years, 5 years ago. I don't remember when they released their paper.
5 years ago.
So 5 years ago, they released their paper. OpenAI makes a better product with their paper. It's kind of because they were sitting on it.
Yeah. I mean, it happens in multiple industries. I think whenever we look back, it's always like this aha moment where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't recognize that this was the future. It's like, no, they knew that this was the future, except it was going to interfere with their core business. And I think they're going to have the same come to Jesus moment that I think Meta did with their board. Because if you guys look at Google as an organization, they have become a bloated organization with a shit ton of people in the middle. And I think that decision-making ability, once you have so many people in the middle, becomes terrible, because now what happens is you have to get 5 different people to agree on something for it to make it to a release. Whereas if you're a smaller, more nimble play, like let's say ChatGPT, you can make arbitrary decisions, put it out there and see how the reception happens. And I think Google's really lost a lot of that innovative edge. But, you know, there's people within Google right now that are trying to see that OpenAI could be an existential threat and make the hard decisions that are necessary in order to make the business grow. So very similar to what Zuck did at Meta, which was, fuck this, we need to get rid of all these middle managers and just literally let the project teams do their job and put products out and save a shit ton of money in the process and pivot away from the metaverse. And I think Google's going to do the same thing, where they pivot away directly from just the main search core bread and butter and just literally start laying off people in the fucking middle and start going ham. And I think that's where they could really
honestly, that's an Elon move. I mean, that's what Elon did when he went into Twitter. I think a lot of those tech CEOs were watching and be like, what's going to happen? Let's see if what he did at Tesla works here. And I think once they saw that, that's what prompted a lot of the layoffs. I'm really curious what's going to happen. I don't know if you've been reading all of the stuff that people have been finding in Twitter's code since they made the code open sourced. Have you been seeing all of the people chiming in? Man, there's so many people that found things in the code about how shadow banning worked, keywords, all this stuff. And I'm just like, I wonder if that's something that these tech companies are going to take, that they're going to follow with. And
let me ask about Google, if both of you want to discuss that for a second, because I am invested in Google. Is Sundar Pichai the problem? He's not as good an Indian CEO as Satya Nadella. Bottom line.
No, he's not the problem. I think...
Is he an engineer? What's his background?
He is an engineer. He is an engineer. He went to IIT Madras. He's a really smart guy. But
they're all smart guys. But what is the issue with him that he grew this company so massively in terms of people?
Well, his problem stems from the same thing that most Silicon Valley types ended up getting into, which was they grew too fast. They grew their headcount way too fast. If you look at Sundar Pichai's background, he's the one that led the team that created Google Chrome, right?
Okay.
That was his claim to fame. And Google Chrome ended up disrupting a lot of other things. So the guy is not a dumb guy. Like, he knows market trends. He knows how to capitalize. What's funny is the same things that happened with Sundar Pichai is the kind of like, okay, so the story that I'll give you guys is, Sundar Pichai comes up with this idea and says, look, Google should do a browser. And, this way it'll be very efficient. It'll lead right back to search. So he goes to Eric Schmidt and says, hey, Google should do this. Eric Schmidt was the CEO at the time, says, no, don't do that, because it's never going to work. The browser market's just too stupid. We'll never make any money off of it. It's not worth doing a browser, right? And Sundar Pichai now is stuck. He's like, look, I think this is a really good idea. So he goes to Larry and Sergey, which was still around, says, look, I have this idea, but I'm not going to get the approval from above. What do I do? and they just said, "Fuck it, do it. Who gives a shit?" And they did it.
We own the company, bitch.
So he basically secretly created Google Chrome.
Wait,
right?
so his bosses didn't want to do it, so he went above his bosses?
Yeah. So he basically led
Fireable
a secret
offense.
team.
Fireable
Yeah,
offense.
he led a secret team underground in Google to create Google Chrome. And eventually they released it because it was so popular and dude, it's amazing. Google owns Chromium, which is probably one of their best products that they ever had. And and they were able to do it. So it's kind of a similar thing right now where there's a lot of people that are wanting to do more, but people are like, no, don't do that. That's not a good idea. And because of that, Google's not been able to really like put things out there. What are some of the latest Google successful products?
Well, did they kill everything? They kill everything if it's not successful within a certain period. Did they just destroy it? They just shut it down.
Yeah.
But no, I'm still bullish on the fact that who else has like a property like YouTube? Who else has all of my data like Gmail and you said Docs and all that? So all of this data is there. And so when I look at Bard and it's not as good as ChatGPT, which I'll admit, I just see them being able to use that data more wisely because they have it all. And Microsoft does not have it all yet. Maybe they will. Maybe people will switch to Bing and they'll start collecting more data or Excel itself. I know they're integrating AI into Excel and Word. Maybe that way they will start like a channel to feed the Microsoft machine for AI, but it's not there yet. So I don't see how Google at this point loses. I still think there's a massive bull case for Google to just still go bonkers. I'm still talking. I believe it's more than a double, but even at a double, it's such a big company is fine for me. I don't know if you guys agree.
I think actually we should switch gears. This question's been asked more than once.
Enphase, all right, let's go back to Enphase.
Because we've got a drinking game here.
Let's go to the well.
Yeah, what Cameron Vincent's who is that? Not Cameron Vincent. Think real. No one thought MySpace would have lost. It's true. It's true. This is part of what I don't want to get into it, but this is part of what I feel is the problem with Facebook or Meta specifically, not Google.
Of course, I heard about Azure.
But anyway, how does Enphase make money other than microinverters so that people can get their daily shot on? Just tell us about why we should DCA into quality companies like Enphase.
No, I'm not answering that. I'm not answering that.
Well, actually,
not an Enphase
Chris
video.
could probably answer this now. Chris could probably answer this now.
No, but I mean, we have videos. Like we have 20 videos going into the bull case for Enphase, not one video. So I don't think we have to go and explain to you, no offense, but why Enphase is going to win. They are winning. That's the point. They own. I think someone put up a chart on our Discord. Actually, let me show the chart. I'm going to share a screen for a second.
In the meantime, let me read something.
Let me share the Discord if I can access it. Window.
Yes, Johnny, you're right. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to like.
Oh yeah, we forgot to do that. Do you guys see this?
Like, and if you're not subscribed, subscribe.
We have a Discord. It's totally free. Obviously, if you want to see trades and all, you got to join the Patreon. But if you just want to join the Discord, it's absolutely free. So come on in, and we can do a Chris channel here. We can. You want to add a Chris channel right now? We just put welcome.
Yeah, one of these days I'll see what
Chris's hot takes.
Chris's
I haven't made up.
Yeah.
I haven't made up my mind.
There you go.
On
there
that,
you go.
yeah.
What are we doing here, Chris?
Yeah.
Hot takes.
Done. Now everyone said all your spam there.
Everyone,
Tag 'em.
go ahead, join.
Bro,
Join
the
Chris Hot
first
Takes.
the first thing that's gonna be on there is the Pornhub IPO. Once Pornhub IPOs, bro, I'm going all in. All in.
All right, so I want to show. Someone shared this. Let me see who shared this. So look at this. Owen the Bay. He's on the Discord all the time. Most popular solar inverters.
Owen the Bay. It's so weird.
Owen in the Bay.
I read it.
Anyway.
Owen the Bay.
All right. Anyway, open and let me make it bigger a bit. So here, do you guys see this?
Yeah, it's a little small, but
okay. Anyway, I'll leave it. It's still here. Most popular solar inverter 2022. Enphase with 75% of the inverter market. Like, we're not talking about anything else. We're not talking about batteries. We're not talking about the vertical integration of energy they're doing. I mean, if this is not some sort of a monopoly just developing right in front of your eyes, to me, it's obvious what's happening. So I don't want to say any more because then it'll just be an Enphase episode again. But this is a serious chart. You guys should really pay attention to what Enphase is doing. And SolarEdge, too. They have a good 23% in 2022. But they're both neck and neck, I would say. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm not going to keep talking about this. So go ahead. I'm going to share Chris has shared something. What do you have here?
So a typical example would be, I would say we're not strong enough to take on Microsoft, and they wanted to do an operating system and a browser. And I said, there's no scenario where we'll ever do an operating system and a browser. and because Microsoft will kill us, and I don't want to get killed. We're a small company, and yes, you're very smart, and yes, we're full of smart people, and yes, we have lots of revenue. These guys can kill us because I'd been previously killed in the previous jobs. And so they hired somebody to improve the performance of Firefox. 6 months later, I'm called down to one office, and this person who was supposed to improve the performance of Firefox has managed to invent Chrome. Shocking. And I say, well, how long have you been doing this? Well, I've been doing it on the side. No, you haven't. You've done it full time. Well, yeah, I had 3 other people. Okay, well, how many more people do you have? Oh, 10 more people. Well, did Larry and Sergey know about this? Larry and Sergey encouraged it. I said, those assholes, right? It's just, I knew it. I knew they were going around.
That's funny.
He was never a good CEO.
No, Eric Schmidt was a good CEO. He understood
too corporate.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you needed some in their phase of growth. Google needed Eric Schmidt because you still needed someone like an adult at the table that helped you like do all the business stuff that you needed to monetize. Like it was the same thing with Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl Sandberg had come up with the way that Facebook could monetize and everything else, but eventually Sheryl Sandberg became the problem, right? Where if you try to make the product too corporate, then people hate it. Like that's the same thing with Google, right? If you have someone that's too much into that, that'll what happen. But this is a clear example of people using their past to make a decision that could have saw Google not take on the browser market, right? Where the CEO was actively saying, no, don't do it. But the owners like Larry and Sergey were like, nah, screw it. Go for it. Let's do it. Google has got Sergey and Larry back. From what I can hear, what I'm hearing, they are on this. They're on the job now. They're like, look, we are going to work with you guys to fucking take on Microsoft. So I would think that if they've got those animal spirits back into the company, if they can breathe life in there again, that's going to be big for Google, because all these fucking people in the middle that are like, no, we can't do this. It'll never work. Those motherfuckers need to go from Google. They need to be gone ASAP. And the people
once
that
again,
are like,
that's Sundar. Yeah. That's him. Sundar is
is not that guy. No. Sundar Pichai is not that guy. Sundar Pichai would love to fucking break shit and just go crazy, but he's got a board of directors. He's got a board of directors. He's got a bunch of middle managers.
So isn't that a problem that when the founders aren't there, like Zuckerberg is like, fuck you. I'm going to do whatever I want. Yeah. Elon Musk, fuck you. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Sunder's there. It's like, fuck me. I don't want to lose my job.
But see, here's the thing. Larry and Sergey have the voting F shares, right? So they can unilaterally say, fuck all you guys. I'm going to replace the board tomorrow morning. Sundar can't do that. Sundar has to play nice with everybody.
Well, hopefully Sundar is telling them to replace the board, because these assholes have to get their shit together.
Well, I would say it's probably like the middle managers. Like, here's an example. When the Department of Defense came to Google and they wanted to create a product run at the Jedi contract. It was like $10 billion contract to provide Google cloud services to the U.S. government. You had an uprising among fucking middle managers and employees to not do it. They're like, oh no, we don't want to do it. We don't want to get involved. Blah, 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 blah. So
that's exactly right. That is exactly right.
DBZ 323. You hit it on the head.
Right. So basically, you have a lot of people who are countervailing the culture at Google to be an innovative company, and it's literally just a bunch of middlemen. And I think once you get rid of that fucking giant middle management layer at Google, and you'll get a level of innovation that we just
Google so they have to fire these middle managers, because honestly they're ruining the company, and they're killing innovation completely, and they're making a company that was based on them now start to win. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous that they're letting this happen. We're going over, so let's say we have 10 minutes left. Do you want to, Carlos? We'll do your link.
I guess we'll answer some questions,
because Matt Money really wants to know why oil is going to zero, and so we got. He's lucky I haven't blocked him at this point. Okay, he had the same fucking question over and over.
This was related to what you just said. Like when there was I don't know what link you sent in the chat. Chris, about Palantir, we were going to talk about it. I started doing some research and I started digging into this. This is exactly what you were talking about.
Are we back in Palantir? What?
No, this is because that contract that Google did not want to take for ethical purposes, Palantir took it.
All right.
And so this is part of it. So anyway, I just wanted to read a little bit of this. Google will not renew a Pentagon contract that upset employees. After employees protested, a Google executive said Friday that the company will not renew a contract to work on an artificial intelligence with the Pentagon after it expires next year. Google hoping to head off a rebellion by employees that upset upset that the technology they were working on could be used for lethal purposes, will not renew a contract with the Pentagon for artificial intelligence when work on a current deal expires next year. Diane Green, who's the head of Google Cloud business that won a contract with the Pentagon's Project Maven, said during a weekly meeting with employees on Friday that the company was backing away from its AI work with the military, according to a person familiar with it. And then it goes on to explain that Palantir took that.
I didn't know that.
Well,
I do remember
Palantir
them not
computed,
taking
yeah.
that contract. I remember all the little
I have
weenie
the
babies crying
article.
about this.
I have the article here. If you want to
Now
see it.
what's really
the
dumb
article.
is the logic that they use is like, oh, we don't want to use AI to help in killing people. But dude, if you think about it, what's the alternative? We take 5,000 pound bomb. We take not 5,000 pound. We take these fucking giant bombs and we just drop them unilaterally on a village and say, fuck it. If we can't identify a target, we'll just take out an entire village. That's the alternative. So yeah, maybe you guys should get off your ideological high horse and say, look, the military's job is to be a lot more precise when it comes to taking out targets, right? So you need AI to say, look, in a decision-making environment, could we help eliminate the collateral damage by working with the government and creating a more focused approach to how we conduct warfare? Yes, that'll eventually save lives. But, when people, I don't know, it's when you take ideological divides and you put that into your core argument against working with the government or working with certain governments, it's a moot point. So like I said, I
could not disagree more. I don't think that you can make a blanket statement like that you ideological. So what you're saying is, no matter if we're making money, nothing else is important. Is the company profitable every quarter? That's part of the problem of why we're getting into these situations is the fact that we no longer have these 10, 20 year horizons with what we expect from companies. Everything is about the next quarter.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we want good companies like Google involved with the military too, I would say, because first of all, there's such a big company. The shareholders are there pushing them as well to take good jobs, and their people there are taking, meaning the actual work that they do inside the company and outside the company. When it's a smaller company like Palantir, I would say there's less eyes on it than more. Like Google has a lot of eyes on it,
Yeah. Well, I got these two things to share again related to that same thing. This was when they took over the contract in 2019. Palantir has taken on Project Maven, a U.S. Department of Defense program that Google stopped working on in March, according to people familiar with the project. Referred to internally as Palantir as Tron, will train artificial intelligence to analyze aerial drone footage to identify people and objects. Google announced they would leave the project in response to employee protests over the company's entry into the business of war. The contract officially ended in March. Palantir co-founder and Peter Thiel suggested that Google's decision to walk away was treasonous. Secretive data analytics company Palantir is working on Project Maven, according to the U.S. Department of Defense program that Google dropped in March following protests inside of the company, according to people familiar with the project. It's working with the Department of Defense to build AI that can analyze video feeds from aerial drones, one of the people said, whereas names of clients are kept close to the vest. The project is referred to as Tron, declined. It's unclear how much the contract is worth. 161 million in business. Where is it? Here, Palantir's involvement comes at a contentious time across the tech sector as lucrative government contracts come into conflict with the political ideals of employees. You can go on and read more. And there's this other one article here that I'll just share. This last one here. It's this one. This one was. Can you see this one? Yeah. Palantir workers are split over the company's work with ICE, but CEO Alex Karp won't budge despite concerned employees' petitions. These are the kinds of things that you don't hear a lot about Palantir. Even on a lot of those bullish channels, you don't hear a lot about the pushback, even internally. Palantir employees are divided over their company's business with immigration and customs enforcement. Palantir provides data mining software to ICE that has been used to screen undocumented immigrants and plan workplace raids. At least 2 letters have been circulated within Palantir over employee concerns about his business with ICE. But Palantir CEO Alex Karp has stood by his decision, citing commitment to working with the U.S. government. Palantir employee ranks have been sharply divided over their company's business with immigration and customs. Blah, blah, blah. Provides a good conversation with Slack.
All right. Enough Palantir.
Many employees have said they want the contracts to end. 60
right.
plus employees have had a petition. These are the kind of things that you don't hear, that even at Palantir, there is concern.
All right, let's answer some questions. Did anyone want to scan through a couple of good questions?
Well, I want to read just some of
Well,
these.
maybe I'll scan. Let's start off with my pool. Why are you guys so concerned?
Okay.
Why are you guys
I
hating
think-
on the pool?
I think what's worth
Why are you
talking
so
about.
angry at me, Matt, that I can afford a pool and you still swim in a fishing hole somewhere? What's the problem here?
I think Matt Money, I think that that's tongue in cheek. I'm sure the guy has.
But there's a
plenty
lot of pool
cash.
comments from Matt Money. I mean, there's a lot.
I'm
He has
sure
like
I'm sure he's got
20
the cash to buy.
20 pool.
freaking
I'm
He's
sure
got a
he does.
pool. He's got a pool, by the way.
Oh, Matt,
Yeah.
you got a pool?
So
I
I'm
can't have a
saying,
pool?
like,
What the fuck? Okay. Why are you
Matt's
allowed to
got
have
a
a pool?
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about OPEC playing a little bit of.
No. We're answering
Supply-
questions. What are we doing here?
That's
Yeah,
what
we
I'm
gotta
saying.
answer
Someone
the
asked a
questions, 'cause
question.
I got
What
a
do you
jet
guys
too.
think of?
I got a jet too.
What do you guys think of OPEC cutting production? That was like, what about the OPEC cut?
It's a million barrels, right? Well, what's the daily
Right.
amount of barrels they're making?
A shit ton, like 100. I think 100 million is like the total output out there. But the U.S., I think we do about 12 million a month right now, or 12 million a day. I don't know. I have to
hold on.
look it up. But
OPEC production of oil.
So
Maybe
basically,
Matt
I mean,
Money
if
can
you look
answer
it up,
that.
even on Reuters, the headline is oil could jump.
did you say
$10 a
Reuters?
barrel.
Reuters.
Reuters.
2021 crude
Yeah.
oil production from OPEC countries amounted to roughly 31.7 million barrels of oil daily. So that's around 32 million per day. You drop one, you're at 31 million barrels of oil. Does
Now,
it matter?
but-
Of course it matters. But
Yes. Swing production. But okay, so let me try to explain why it's important in our context. Okay, in terms of inflation, the target that we have to reduce down inflation, one of it is heavily dependent on the price of energy. So natural gas prices, oil prices. If the gas prices go up, naturally transporting all the products that you have, people
Everything
going
goes
from
up, yeah.
point A, everything goes up. So that's bad for inflation if the price goes up. Now the question is, why is OPEC doing it? Well, if you look at the price of oil's gone down to like $65, $70 a barrel right now, which for the end consumer, it's a good thing, but for them as producers is a bad thing. So by them taking out some of that additional marginal production, that means that the prices can elevate a little bit. So what they're saying is, because they're a cartel, they can unilaterally work with the other members to cut back on production. They are seeing an economic slowdown happen, which is they're seeing demand fall off. So their logic for doing this is that, hey, demand is coming down, so we need to make sure we do it. Now, here's the thing. The U.S. should be taking advantage of the current low prices and be refilling the SPR. Because if you guys remember, SPR has been drained like crazy. Like
the
they
reserves,
literally,
right?
yeah, they need to be refilling the SPR at these rock bottom price, not rock bottom.
And they're not doing that?
No, they're not. At this
What?
point, they're not. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying too. Like what? So they should be doing that. But I don't know. Like in terms of inflation, there seems to be early signs from members like OPEC, countries like OPEC, that things are starting to slow down in terms of demand, which means that we might be heading towards a deflationary spiral. That is what I am seeing. And this just leads to that that thesis that, hey, we are thinking that inflation is still going to be a big problem. I think in 2024 we might actually see deflation as a bigger threat, which means that we're lower interest rates again. So
2024, that sort of makes sense, first of all, because I think I heard a stat on The Compound, another show I watched, that after the Fed, their last hike, usually it's quickly followed by a decrease in rates.
Yeah, because
So-
they usually break something. They
So
break
then they have
something
to
enough,
start
yeah.
lowering rates almost immediately. Well, that could mean a month from now. But,
Reactionary. Yeah.
so if this was the last one that just happened, or the next one is the last one, we're at the last one. We're almost there. Wherever it is, it either happened or it's happening next time. But I think rates are going to be coming down, like you're saying, 2024.
So this is going to be a very weird time where interest rates will go down, but the amount of housing in the market will go up. And I think housing is going to be one of those things, depending on the market that you're in, may end up taking a tumble, like more than other markets. Like if you're in, I think the Southeast, where a lot of people moved to during COVID, I I think we're going to see a reversal trend in that because a lot of companies are starting to do RTO, like return to the office. So there's this whole thing on Blind right now, where I'm seeing there's like a revolt among employees that were hired in the last 2 years, where they had the freedom to work from home. They were hired work from home, and so they ended up buying houses and living and moving their families to like in the middle of nowhere, like Boise, Idaho, right? And now people are recalling them saying, hey, you got to come in, even if it's only 3 days a week. The thing is, how are you going to commute 3 days a week from fucking Boise, Idaho to, let's say, Seattle, Washington? So now they're stuck. So everyone's like, look, if they try to bring me home, like, back to the office, I'm going to quit my job. And there's like a whole lot of people that are doing this, but they're losing that fight because they're just companies are just laying them off.
That's something like, when you could say like the woke movement about like what you're entitled to. That's something that I think it's actually on the floor or in a bill that they presented, that now the ability to work from home is considered like a basic worker right now.
Yeah, and
unless
it's
you're
not
absolutely
like
needed, you can.
Yeah, and it's becoming a hot topic among a lot of corporations. Like, are we going to return to the office, or are we going to allow work from home to just be like the standard practice? And from what I'm seeing, most tech companies are saying return to the office. Most financial firms are saying return to the office, but they are willing to compromise on how many days in the office. They're saying, look, at a minimum 3 or 3 days, you should be in the office.
But then the question becomes, then why have it at all? I think a lot of it is just to justify the real estate that they've purchased and the money that they've spent on the infrastructure at those offices. Like new companies that start up now, right? I don't think they're going to have that same overhead.
I think that's the argument that a lot of people are making as the reasoning why that they're doing RTO. I think it's more than that. I think there's a level of cross collaboration that people are not getting. There's a lot of arguments that are making a lot of sense, where if you don't have a certain level of like collegiality, you're not able to develop new things. Like, people are not necessarily learning as much. I don't know what the exact thing is, but it's enough to the point where the CEOs are saying work from home is not going to happen. If in terms of work from home, if you're just looking at it from like an economical standpoint, it makes total sense. Like, why would you want employees to pay this additional price of traveling from point A to point B, you having to have a commercial footprint where you have to pay out of pocket to have an office so employees can come? I think there's more to it than that, where there is definitely things that are outside the economic value, where they're seeing productivity drops that are like just too much. Like, I know some people could probably do work from home, but I would say 80% of people, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, don't fucking go crazy in the chat. I know, because I put something on Twitter and people were like, I have kids. Like, congratulations, you made a fucking life decision. Now the company has to live with it. Like, no, that's not how fucking economy works. Like, people
Too bad.
Yeah, people for the last 100 years have had kids and still been had a job. All right, you're not the first generation to figure out that kids take time and effort. Okay,
all right,
it's
dude.
just,
all right. All this hate with kids. Just move on. What's the point?
Yeah, the point
Don't
is,
you have a couple of those?
I'm working on it.
Fucking kids.
Get out of here. Dad's on them. Dad's on a call.
Listen, I agree with your sentiment.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be a battle that eventually the employees are going to lose. The CEOs and management are going to win. In which case, people are going to end up back at the office. It's going to take a while. If you look at Asia and Europe, it's already recovered to the point where everyone's going back to the office again. I think the US, we're a little bit more, and right now the employees have a little bit more leverage because of the unemployment situation, because we have such low unemployment. But with all these layoffs happening, like, you guys see it every fucking day. It's like, this company lays off 5,000 people. This company lays off blah, blah, blah. Once the labor market,
but you could argue, but you could argue that that's just returning back to normal. It's like a lot of people were fact checking Biden when he was like, we added all these jobs to the economy. It's like, no, we were just getting the jobs back that we lost during COVID. It's the same deal.
Yeah.
They did a lot of hiring, and now they're just getting back down to pre-COVID levels. I don't know if it's like a bunch of layoffs. It's like, yeah, the free ride's over.
Yeah. No, I think I think that there's definitely a lot of people that dropped off the job market that are starting to come back. But if you look at labor force participation is starting to climb up again as well. You've got a large amount of baby boomers that are retiring and all the other stuff. So it's definitely going to be a different thing for me. The way that I'm playing this is that I'm buying heavily into like commercial real estate, but it's going to be a very focused commercial real estate portfolio where yeah. So I'm not buying commercial real estate. I'm buying REITs that specifically work with commercial real estate because they've been sold off like crazy. I looked at it with this whole RTO movement happening. On top of it, the cities are willing to compromise on conversions from office to retail, especially in some of the most prestigious areas. So if you're looking at it, like I'm looking at some major REITs that have presence in high need markets, like Manhattan. Like Manhattan's not going anywhere. So if you've got real estate,
it's like
in Manhattan,
a Home Depot employee can't work from home. They have to go to where the
yeah.
You have to go.
All right, let's move on from the REITs. Let's just because we have to wrap this up. Here's a question: is the TikTok ban a threat to free speech on the internet?
I responded to that.
Short answers only.
I responded. I said no. I said
yes,
no. I don't think it is. I think that's actually falls under the category of what you call it, national security. I just don't think you should have this kind of information on our population. I don't think they're saying a TikTok-like program. I mean, that TikTok is basically Vine, and Vine was fine. I just think that having all of this data and information on another country's servers, I wouldn't want that. It's not about free speech. You're not saying you can't have that app. You're just saying, hey, there's another country getting all this information on our citizens.
And honestly, that they could they could sell TikTok to an American company, or totally separate it somehow, which I think I don't know if that's in discussion.
I mean, they say that they're separating it, but you know as well as I do that's
they'd have to legally officially separate it, meaning like two different people running two different companies.
Oh, I thought you meant like the data. We promised that the data is not.
I don't think that's enough. You can't believe that. But the funny thing is, I have all these Wise cameras everywhere, which is China spying on me, basically.
It's not China spying on you. That's
it is. It's
why? Because they make them.
The founders are Chinese from China. So I'm assuming that they're spying on us.
I mean, but that's like beyond racist.
Dude, all my Alexa switches right now, all my like, because my house, like almost every light I have is with what is that thing called? With Alexa.
The Alexa.
Now every time I log into the application that has that, it's called GoSund. It's fucking Chinese. It's a Chinese
have you ever
app.
seen the Wi-Fi networks on like the different devices in your house? It's like in Chinese letters. No joke. So we are being spied on some sense that we're giving our information. So, but yes, having TikTok around is something that I agree with you. It's national security. So
I would say if they just ban TikTok, I'm totally cool with it. The problem is the legislation that they came up with is too broad. It's saying basically anyone who the executive branch can define an adversary, and the law says any country that's adversarial has the government is going to have the ability to fine and I think jail anyone trying to circumnavigate access to that country's product or whatever. And then the executive power is the one that determines who's considered an adversary or not. So they really do need to do rewording on that legislation, because the way that they came up with it, it's too broad. It's really broad.
But just to respond to that, the real John Sarge, it's no. He says it's no. They're just banning TikTok. We're giving the government too much power. If there's one thing that I want the government to do, it's this.
Protect us.
Literally, right? Stay out of our lives. Like I'm kind of like lean libertarian in that sense, like you, Chris. But like this is something where I do expect the government to just jump in and say, okay, you can't collect all this data on our.
Yeah, no, I mean that's their job. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's true. If China can ban Google and Facebook, we can ban. Absolutely.
No, I don't like. I hate that China does that, but that's the difference between us and them. And I hope that China keeps up with that attitude, because they are fucking missing out on the next generation of innovation because they limit themselves and they pigeonhole themselves.
They've scared every innovator right now.
Right. So
from getting their head chopped off.
Exactly. So that means that whoever's so that's the key difference between us and them. And if we start to adopt their policies and their things, that's going to kill us. If we stop innovation. Yeah.
The Chinese social credit system is coming here. It's not going to be called that, but
Bro, it's
going
already
to
here.
be
It's
there.
already here.
It's already
It's
here,
already
right?
here.
Exactly. But it'll be something more official.
All right,
And,
last
okay,
question, and then we got to go.
wait, but I just,
Would you all invest in SpaceX?
I mean, come on. Yeah, of course. Well, it depends on the valuation.
Well, okay, so
but
let's
like,
say 500 billion it
if
comes
it,
out
if
at.
it IPOs
It's
at
already
500
100 billion, by the way. It's private.
100 billion, that's one thing, but 500 billion.
Well, it's not going
No.
public at 100 billion. It's going to go quarter of a billion, 250. Would you go for it?
At 500 billion,
250. Let's say 250.
250 probably, just because.
All right.
That depends. Do they spin off Starlink as a separate business?
I think that you're doing that before they're
I'm
going
saying
private.
if Starlink is a separate
Yeah,
business,
but you're not getting that. You're not getting
Right,
that.
if you're not
Starlink
getting that.
is coming out before, I think, to raise money. I assume for Mars, right? Isn't that what he's doing?
Yeah, but I'm
Starlink
saying
is going to IPO
part
first
of the
next
bull
year.
case. Part of the bull case on SpaceX is getting a piece of that Starlink money.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get that.
Well,
I think
then no.
unless we're private investors, we're going to miss out on that.
Hold on, I do want to read some.
And by the way, at 250 billion, SpaceX, I would still say worth it, because if they are the ones in control of the United States going to
Yes.
space, because there is no other company.
yes, it's like buying
That
NASA.
is- No, but that's buying that 250
Right,
billion
it's like
for
being able to
NASA?
invest in NASA. Sure.
Yeah, well, why not?
Yeah.
It's an easy trillion.
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with 4Xs, people? Have you forgotten 4Xs are good?
Nothing wrong with that. Oh, and I think it's a nice, safe place. I feel good about that
I
investment.
think over 500 billion, I'm out, but at 250, I'm in.
So just reading back in this conversation about banning TikTok, Charles Stewart said it's the Patriot Act broad. That's true. Jay Kim, All In Podcast, talked about what Chris is talking about. The new legislation is crazy. Americans are about to lose a lot of their freedoms. Yeah, I mean, I was one of those guys that was around. I was anxiously anticipating the release of the 9/11 Commission report, and it took me, I don't know, 2 weeks to read that thing. But I said, I'm reading every freaking word of this thing, and I read it, and you could see the base layer of what we're dealing with now. Yes, these are slowly eroding some of the freedoms that we've enjoyed, and under the guise of security. And this is how we get to this China level authoritarian state. And it's actually, what's funny is the people are begging for it. They've been sort of brainwashed to beg for it. You know, Vitaly, I don't know. You're 38, Chris?
I am 30.
Yeah,
You're right.
37.
Okay, 38. So then maybe you, but like, man, Vitaly and I grew up in a time, I think we were just like the truly last sort of free generation. You know, like internet really didn't become a thing till we were much later on in life. And I feel bad for a lot of the kids that grew up post that generation, because like we really were that last generation of what we know what it's like to be sort of truly free, right? And I feel like when this generation or when Gen X dies, it's a wrap, it's over.
Pretty much all decisions are being made by an algorithm.
Say what?
It's like the entire psyche is just algorithms. Like, you think that your thoughts are being based on free thinking. It's not. It's just an algorithm feeding you shit. And then you're like, it's almost like the algorithm is leading you to the water. And so your entire opinion base is based on that what that algorithm tells you should like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and then these people go out and do crazy things like buy Palantir.
Yeah. Okay. We're not getting. Okay, guys, we're wrapping.
Come on. We got to just.
All right. That's a great stream. Thank you very much, Cameron. Even though I don't think you like any of my investments, and you keep pushing Palantir on me. But all right.
I mean, he's entitled to his opinion. Come on.
Everyone's entitled. Okay. So thanks for coming on the stream, everybody, and I guess we'll see you on the next one. Hopefully, Amit will be on the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right.
Everybody.
See you guys.
Bye.